intense shade than her skin. She wanted to curl into a ball and hide, wanted to scream and beat her fists against the glass until it shattered. But before she could act on any of these impulses, her stomach cramped and she felt a swell of nausea. She rushed to the toilet. She threw up until there was nothing left but bile and leaned weakly on the seat with her arm cushioning her sweaty face. After a few seconds, the toilet flushed itself. Time passed. A tone sounded 3 times, and a panel on the opposite wall opened, revealing a recess containing a tray of food. Hannah didn't move from her position on the floor. She was too ill to eat. The panel closed, and the tone sounded again, twice this time. There was a brief delay, then the room went dark. It was the most welcome darkness she had ever known. She crawled to the platform and lay down on the pallet. Eventually, she slept. She dreamed she was at Mustang Island with Becca and their parents. Becca was 9, Hannah 7. They were building a sand castle. Becca shaped the castle while Hannah dug the moat. Her fingers furrowed the sand, moving round and round the rising structure in the center. The deeper she dug, the wetter and denser the sand, and the harder it was for her fingers to penetrate it. "That's deep enough," Becca said, but Hannah ignored her sister and kept digging. There was something down there, something she urgently needed to find. Her motions grew frantic. The sand was very wet now and very dark, and her fingers were raw. The moat started to fill with water from below, welling up over her hands to her wrists. She smelled something fetid and realized it wasn't water but blood, dark and viscous with age. She tried to jerk her hands out of the moat, but they were caught on something. No, something was holding them, pulling them down. Her arms disappeared up to the elbows. She screamed for her parents, but the beach was empty apart from herself and Becca. Her face hit the sandcastle, collapsing it. "Help me!" she begged her sister, but Becca didn't move. She watched impassively as Hannah was pulled under. "Kiss the baby for me," Becca said. "Tell it—" Hannah couldn't hear the rest. Her ears were full of blood. She started awake, heart tripping. The room was still dark and her body was cold and wet. "It's just sweat," she told herself. "Not blood, sweat." As it dried, she began to shiver, and she felt the air around her grow warmer to compensate. She was just about to nod off again when the tone sounded twice. The lights came on, blindingly bright. Her second day as a Red had begun. She tried to go back to sleep, but the white light burned through her closed eyelids, through her eyeballs and into her brain. Even with an arm flung over her eyes, she could still see it, like a harsh alien sun blazing inside her skull. This was by design, she knew. The lights inhibited sleep in all but a small percentage of inmates. Of these, something like 90% committed suicide within a month of their release. The message of the numbers was unambiguous. If you were depressed enough to sleep despite the lights, you were as good as dead. Hannah couldn't sleep. She didn't know whether to be relieved or disappointed. She shifted onto her side. She couldn't feel the microcomputers embedded in the pallet, but she knew they were there, monitoring her temperature, pulse rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate, white blood cell count, serotonin levels. Private information. But there was no privacy in a chrome ward. She needed to use the toilet, but held it for as long as possible, mindful of the cameras. While acts of personal hygiene were censored from public broadcast, she knew the guards and editors still saw them. Finally, when she could wait no longer, she got up and peed. The urine came out yellow. There was some comfort in that. At the sink, she found a cup and toothbrush. She opened her mouth to clean her teeth and was startled by the sight of her tongue. It was a livid, reddish purple, the color of a raspberry popsicle. Only her eyes were unchanged, still a deep black surrounded by white. The virus no longer mutated the pigment of the eyes as it had in the early days of melochroming. There had been too many cases of blindness, and that, the courts had decided, constituted cruel and unusual punishment. Hannah had seen vids of those early chromes with their flat, neon gazes and disturbingly blank faces. At least she still had her eyes to remind her of who she was. Hannah Elizabeth Payne.